Welcome everyone for joining our October Career Center Takeover, hosted by the Bond team, which is a women-led real estate group here in Austin. So excited that they're here today to share with us their best practices and experience on negotiation.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Mimi Bond, and I am the founder and the leader of the Bond team, which is a real estate team here in Austin, Texas. I'm extremely lucky to have some amazing team members who are here with me today. We have Regina Saranglo, she's one of our realtors, and then Brooke Phelps, who is our marketing manager. And we're very excited to kind of share with you more about negotiation and what it means to negotiate in the workplace. I think all of us carry, negotiation skills. Before I became a realtor 5 years ago, I used to work for a large corporation for 10 years. And I have to say, I had my fair share of negotiating through my career while I was working for the corporation. And it's definitely not an easy conversation, but it's always needed. And us as women, it's extremely important to talk more about it and learn how we can negotiate the terms when we're looking for a job. Then I'll let Regina and Brooke introduce themselves and we'll go from there.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Regina Saranglo, proud member of the Bond team. I've been an agent for going on 3 years. And for me personally, negotiating, just the thought of it makes me uncomfortable. And it's very nerve-wracking. So during my first salary position with a nonprofit, I didn't even think to consider that negotiating my salary was an option. For me, I was eager to leave my hourly job that I immediately accepted the first offer I got from my employer. And looking back, I realized in doing that and not preparing efficiently, I left a lot of money on the table. So we're very excited to be with all of you women today and walk you through the negotiating skills.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brooke. I am the marketing specialist for the Bond team, and I've been in marketing for the past 5 years or so. Like Mimi and Regina, I've also worked for large corporations where negotiation just wasn't really a strong skill that I felt that I had. And it really took some bad experiences, almost demoralizing experiences, to realize that the lessons that I learned really proved that I have the power to make sure I'm getting paid for my experiences and my knowledge, and that I'm worth having those conversations for, because as we all know, we'll kind of dive into today, these are tough conversations, right? It's not easy to talk about your money. It's not easy to talk about what other people are making. And so hopefully some of the tips that we provide today will make that conversation easier for you. Some of the key takeaways, as we're so honored to be here with you today, is, recognizing your strengths, doing your research, how to get prepared for the conversation, and believing in yourself are our top ways that we feel like you could make the conversation easier for when you're going into negotiation, whether you're looking for a job or maybe you're looking to get promoted in your current role. Whatever the situation is, there's definitely strategies and tactics that we can share to help you. But don't stop there either. What you learned today, we're also going to share some additional resources that you can continue your research and hopefully become more confident when negotiating.
So to start us off today, I would really like to share one of my favorite quotes, and that's: the more you push yourself to do the things you're scared to do, the stronger your confidence muscle will become. I really like this quote because it reminds us that in order for us to get ahead in our lives, we really need to do the uncomfortable things that we always run away from, and they don't always come naturally to us. So it's extremely not easy to talk about money. I think the money topic is extremely taboo, and it has kind of a negative stigma attached to it, and especially hard for women, I think, to advocate for ourselves in the workplace when it comes to our pay. And we always feel like we're inconveniencing people by even stating that we would like something else or even trying to negotiate. So it's extremely important for all of us to have skills that we can take when we go to the job interviews and to truly advocate for ourselves.
Absolutely, because if we're not going to do it, who's going to do it for us, right? Negotiation was a skill that I didn't think I had for the longest time. I think a lot of us that start in the workforce really young really miss those critical skills to advocate for ourselves, again, because it's not talked about and it's really not provided to us from when we start working. And so it's something that we have to learn. Some people are really great at it. Men are really good at it, and men advocate for themselves all the time in the workplace. So there's really no reason why we shouldn't as well. The worst they can say is no, right? And even if they say no, we have some strategies to leave you with today that will help you manage that conversation, right? So before we get into those, I wanted to share some facts about the wage gap for women. So it's not just a singular experience that we're having when it comes to negotiation salary in the workplace. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the data in 2020, women's annual earnings were still only 82 cents on the dollar for every dollar that a man earns. And the gap is even wider for many women of color. And women across the board almost earn less in nearly all occupations. So that's a pretty big number, a pretty big statistic. And why is this? A top reason is for so long that we've had to deal with employer secrecy, right? Let us know in the comments if you've ever experienced someone, being really shush about like, oh, don't talk about your pay, don't talk about your salary. It's like the secrecy that exists in a lot of workplaces, right? And the best way we can go around that is to start being more transparent and start discussing it and start really understanding what are people earning, what are people getting paid, and how do you keep yourself marketable for other high paying jobs that you might want to shoot for. The other thing that I thought was really important to show is that the pandemic, as of February 2021, our participation rate in the workforce was at 55.8%. The last time that rate existed was of April of 1987. So the pandemic has set women back more than 30 years. That's a huge number to me. And situations like layoffs, the lack of childcare, the increased need for caregivers, which normally fall on women in the household, right? These are all things that contribute to this. We're still in a pandemic, right? These gains, we've had stalls and gains towards closing the pay gap because we're still in a pandemic and these situations are still existing. And some employers have made really great strides into addressing these issues, but at the same time, there's still plenty out there that could be making more strides in their own companies. Why this is also could be a good thing for you is if you're job searching is this year you might have heard people talking about the great resignation or the great quit, because there's more people out there who either switched careers during the pandemic or decided to be full-time parents or caregivers. There's this opportunity in the job force right now with many companies needing talent. And so you may be in a better place to actually negotiate for a higher salary or more benefits and perks, or even a promotion in some situations.
So after hearing all of these statistics, like where do we start? What are our next steps that we need to truly do to move forward and get the jobs that we want and get paid what we want? And one of those things is that we need to recognize our strengths, and chances are that you already know how to negotiate. I mean, if you're a mom, you're already negotiating with your kids every morning. Are you going to eat that last bite on the plate? You negotiate with your teenagers how are they going to clean the room, or who's going to do the laundry. With your partner, who's going to throw away the trash. If you are meeting with friends, you're negotiating what time and where. So I think throughout our lives, as we exist in life, we negotiate everything. So let's not forget that. Do you guys have any comments on what are some things that you can think of that maybe we did not mention about what you negotiate on the day-to-day basis, and we don't really view it like negotiation?
Yeah, I don't have children, but I do have a dog. And even with my dog, I'm constantly negotiating of like, I'll let you out, but I gotta let you back in, and then I'll let you out later. And I think you know, you negotiate with your partners and your spouses and your friends, and there's all kinds of negotiations that we do naturally in our day-to-day, in our normal lives. And I think we forget that those are skills that we've picked up that can be applied to your job search, that can be applied in your current role as well.
So I
Regina,
think,
go ahead, maybe.
I think ultimately negotiation skills are communication skills, and we really need to, you know, understand that we need to communicate our needs and our wants, and we need to go from there. What were you going to say, Brooke? Sorry.
I was going to ask Regina, because as someone who had also mentioned, like, you know, you had started not utilizing your negotiation skills at the time, but you learned that now. How easier has it become for you, especially when you're advocating for your clients in real estate?
I think it definitely comes from experience. I think once you've had that first opportunity to do it, and depending how you handle that situation, if you did it correctly, I think it makes you feel better to kind of move forward. And now you know what it was like, right? But for me, I think it just came from experience. Looking back, I now have that strength and that wisdom that moving forward, now I have the confidence to, and the skill set to know exactly what to ask for.
So I think the first step we need to do is to figure out what our strengths are, and learning how to show them off. What are the things that you can do, and what are the things that you do well? What are your opportunities, and how can you identify them to potential employers? For example, we can lean into what we're already good at. We all know problem solving, critical thinking, adaptability, project manager, relationship building, and organization. So also, doing your research on the employer that you're applying for is extremely important. You can start by looking up how big they are and what's their value, missions, and all of that, just to find out more about the company. Look at their public policies, their public statements, and their leadership team. What else, Brooke?
Yeah, so when you're looking at the company, it's really important, I think, to like Mimi said, to look at the leadership team, you know, right? If they have a public policy of diversity and inclusion, does that match what their talent is at the company, right? If you're looking at, you know, are they saying that they have a great work-life balance? What is that work-life balance? Is it remote opportunities? Is it childcare benefits? You know, what is the benefit package? And there's also free salary tools that you can actually use to look at real reported numbers from the jobs, from the titles that you're actually looking for. So for example, if I wanted to see what the current salary was for a marketing manager in Austin, Texas, there's plenty of free salary tools where I can pop in some numbers, and then I know my range, right? Then I can apply, well, how many years of experience do I have? Do I have any specific skills that would bump me up and to be a better fit candidate for the role that I'm looking for? And then you know what the real numbers are, right? You're not going into the conversation blind, and you also won't be taken over if someone offers you something that's just way too low and you know better, right? So really make sure you do your research and use the tools that are already out there to help you find what those numbers are.
And then lastly, on the research step, a great resource is your close ones, your loved ones, right? Ask your best friends, ask your past colleagues, ask the people that you trust about their salary, about their experience, right? How did they prepare for their job interview? How did they negotiate their salary? How long were they in their roles before they got the salary that they were aiming for? Use your allies and the people closest to you for resource and lean on them so that you can be best prepared.
I think that last step is really so important and really what helped me realize that I was being underpaid for what I was doing. And really made me have that spark of I deserve better, because I was in a role where I figured out I was underpaid. And even though I addressed it, they weren't inclined to actually pay me what I should have been paid. So that's when I was like, you know what, I'm going to make the decision for myself to leave and find a different role that's a better fit for, what I'm looking for. And that's why we say it's really so important to advocate for yourself, right? Because no one out there is really going to do it for you, unless you just have that really great, boss or manager that is advocating on your behalf. But most of the time, it's really going to come down to you saying, I know what this role pays for. I know what I should be getting. Let's have that conversation. Which leads us into the next slide of how to get prepared for it.
So as you prepared for your conversation with the employer, it's extremely important to show up confident. I think confidence is something that we need to, each one of us needs to work on. But when you show up confident at the job, whoever is interviewing you, they can sense that energy that you're projecting. They can sense that, you're here and you're a solid candidate for that position. Also, it's extremely important not to say, I'm sorry to bother you or sorry to ask you. I think us women, we apologize for everything, anything and everything, and we shouldn't. So many times I'm so aware now about writing emails. You start writing an email, sorry, whoop, erase it. There's no more sorry, right? We all need to make ourselves aware of the things that we are habit, and we say sorry or apologize for no reason. And that has to stop. So what
Absolutely. So after you stop apologizing and you get the sorry out of your vocabulary, start practicing what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. So craft your pitch with some flexibility and in a way of what's best for the organization, right? You want the conversation to be a win-win for both you and your employer, right? That's going to be the ideal situation. Focus on the long-term success as well as what you brought to the table so far. If you are going after job offers and they come back with you with a low number, this is your negotiation time. Come back with them and say, well, based off my research, I think I should be here. Is that something you can work with? Bring numbers, specific examples. If you're showing well, this is how I benefited the company currently, or this is how I benefited my past companies. And really build it around of how you can have this relationship get started or continue depending on where you are in your career. Frame the conversation as an open discussion with a win-win argument in mind. I think it's easy to be fearful about job loss or missing a job opportunity, or even when you're changing jobs. So just remember that you're worth it to negotiate always. You are always deserving of having this conversation with your existing employer or a new employer. Especially after the incredible pandemic that we've all experiencing and are still experiencing. And if they say no, be sure how you want to respond, right? Ask the employer to provide a reason and even maybe suggest steps of things that you can take to do moving forward. If it's something you really want to fight for and you want to stay with the company, this can help you figure out what you need to do to get where you want to be. And if you're negotiating a job offer, then be sure to think about how other ways that you can negotiate in that offer, which is another part that I think is really important when we're talking about knowing your bottom line. So the worst thing, as we mentioned earlier, is that someone can say no, but a no doesn't have to be the end of the conversation. There might be other things on the table that we're not really aware of. So other than pay, your schedule and your hours, right? Those are things you could potentially negotiate. What are the expectations of the job? What's the commitment and the workload? What are the benefits? Is there travel involved? Do you get travel expenses covered? Do you get meals covered? All of these things can really be a part of the negotiation conversation. If you're getting a job offer or you're switching jobs, if they can't meet you at your salary pay, is there a sign-on bonus that you can negotiate for? Is there some other incentive that can be on the table? And it really depends on just how flexible you feel about it and how strongly you feel about the role. Can depend on where you really want to take that conversation. We came across this tweet that I thought was really helpful. At every job, you should either learn or earn. Either is fine, both is best, but if it's neither, then quit. We're really at a point in time, with, especially for women, where we can take back control of our work lives. And think of it this way. Most of us work 40 hours a week. A lot of us work more than that. It's that negotiating your time and your energy for something else, right? You're giving up time for your regular life, for your friends, your family, your children to be at this job, right? So it should be an equal relationship. And if something's unbalanced, that's your red flag indicator to go, let's look at this, right? Is it time to negotiate for something better? And lastly, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I said sorry. Excuse me.
Yes, no sorry.
Too easy. Pardon me. So there's a quick question in the chat, and I thought that this might be a great time to ask it. So if human resources, this came from Crescencia, and she asked that if human resources department already establishes a pay rate for a position, how do you go about negotiating? There's obviously several items up here that one could potentially negotiate in a job position. So do you have any recommendations on how you might go about figuring out if a certain company or organization is flexible to negotiate, schedule, workload, benefits?
Yeah, I would say if you are in HR and you feel like, my salary is not really where it needs to be, that's a great opportunity to also look at the entire company and say, are we actually where we need to be in order to be competitive, right? So that would be my indicator to start doing more research and start seeing, okay, these same jobs at other companies, what's their pay rate, right? Like what are other things, like what are other salaries being paid out in these similar roles? What does their benefit package look like? What is their perks? I think that would be a great thing to kind of look at it from like a bird's eye view and say, well, if I'm feeling this way, are other people at my company feeling this way? And then what can I do to bring some more research and insight into the situation?
I also think I would like to add that if currently you feel like HR would not budge, I would ask about what's their bonus, right? There's some companies where you have an yearly evaluation every year or every 6 months, 90 days after you start your job. So if you present yourself as that stellar employee who's always there, who thinks ahead, I bet you that when you sit down with your manager to do your evaluation, if they do that, then you have the grounds, since you've proven yourself within that position, you have the grounds to ask for more. And trust me, they want to keep employees that show up every day, that put their best foot forward and that do the work, and they don't have to be managed or micromanaged. So I think that's another option. If right now where you're at, there's no you want to stay there and there's no, option for them to give you more, I would look at what can I get down the road, and then also look within other potential other positions within the company that potentially might be paying more, and if that's a good fit for you.
Thank you for your advice. Yes, most of the time, during my one-on-one with the manager, I become the outcome. My performance is on top of everything. But at the same time, my salary is not on top. So this is why I say, oh, how you start this conversation, it's something that is not easy for me.
No,
I
absolutely.
understand.
And I was in that position. I was an assistant manager and I was making a certain amount. And it came to a point where that amount was no longer serving me, or it was good. So I went to my director and I said, look, this is where I am right now. In order for me to stay and work here, I need a raise. And if you cannot give me a raise, then what kind of other positions are there within the department that I can take on that will give me the money that I'm looking for? And you'll be surprised. I mean, I bet your manager's overwhelmed, they're overworked. I mean, everybody is burnt out right now. But if there's this way, you're putting a seat in their heads, right? You're like, well, she wants to move if she can make more money, maybe become a different position in within the same department. I think you just have to start that conversation. You have to let your employer know what your intentions are. Otherwise, they're never going to know. You have to, that's how you advocate for yourself, by raising your hand and saying, this is what I want. And I must say, I came to the US as a foreigner. I came on a work visa. And the corporation that I got my job with, we were 25 international students and we worked in food and beverage. And we had an amazing summer. And I was the one who went to HR and said, hey, you have winter season coming. We worked in a resort. How would it be for you can you extend our visas? Can you let us stay? And I said, plus, that you have 25 employees that are already trained and you don't have to go through the training. We're ready to take on the winter season in a ski resort. So, and that's what they did. They extended all of our visas. So it's all about stating, knowing where you want to be, but knowing it and not sharing it with anybody is not going to work. You have to say it. My team knows I manifest anything I want, but I say it, right? There's a position that I really want to have in the future that's connected with real estate. And I'm already planting seeds and I want that to happen in 5 years. So I'm already giving them nudges and like telling them that this is a position that they don't have right now, but I would like to have in future. And I bet you they're going to create it just because I'm putting my best foot forward and letting them know that I'm interested in handling that. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you for your advice.
Great question.
Okay.
Was there another one, Amanda, or?
We have a couple of questions in the chat. I don't know if you want to address them all now or wait until the end.
Let's go ahead and finish because we just have a couple more slides to share. And then, yeah, I think it would be great to answer some more questions. And it's perfect because what Mimi was saying was the final thing is to really believe in yourself, right? This might be the hardest part of it to do, right? Because we always have those little voices in our head that questions our abilities, that puts doubts there. And just like we're going to stop saying sorry, we're going to silence those voices and remind ourselves that you have the power to advocate for yourself. You have the power to make a better life for yourself. You have the power to negotiate for the things that you want. And a lot of times things get glossed over because we're not asking for them enough. And we're not saying, hey, I won't be silent on this. I want to talk about it. And we need to have this conversation.
I also think that we were raised to work hard and to hope that somebody, whoever is around us, will notice our hard work and that they're going to advocate for us. And I think times have changed a lot and you are the one. You create your future. You're the one who goes after it when you need to state it. So no more waiting around. I know in the beginning when I started working, I was like, oh, I think I was extremely fortunate to have managers who saw the potential within me, and they were extremely supportive, and they pushed me to achieve more within the company. But then I also had the other experience where when I moved to a different area, the managers I was surrounded by, they were just there to do their job, but they weren't there to grow the people that they had. And I think as leaders, I'm a leader, I lead people, and I've been working on how do I grow the people that work with me? How do I make them realize their potential, and do they even know their potential? But there's a lot of leaders out there, managers, that don't have that training, and maybe they're not even interested to improve their employees. So you are the one who needs to advocate for yourself and believe in yourself. You know your skills, you know you work hard, you need to say something about it.
So that about wraps up our tips for negotiating